Before anyone knew his name, before the lights dimmed and the cameras rolled, there was a moment of silence that felt heavier than sound. Imagine this, a crowded theater buzzing with whispers, judges flipping notes, an audience expecting another good performance, but not a miracle. And then a young Filipino boy walked onto the America's Got Talent stage, holding a microphone with hands that trembled just enough to reveal how much this moment meant. What happened next is something AGT was never ready for, and by the end of this story, you'll understand why the room went completely silent. Before we continue, if stories like this touch your heart and remind you why music still matters, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us bring you more powerful, emotional stories like this one. His name was Miguel Santos, a quiet kid from a small coastal town in the Philippines where the sea was loud but opportunities were few. Miguel grew up in a one-room house with a rusted tin roof, where rain drummed like impatient fingers every monsoon season. His father worked as a fisherman, leaving before sunrise and returning after dark, while his mother sold homemade food at the local market. Money was always tight, but music was the one thing that never felt scarce in their home. An old radio sat near the window, held together with tape, and every evening it played songs from another era, Elvis Presley songs. Miguel didn't understand the English words at first, but he understood the feeling. The ache. The hope. The loneliness and strength woven into Elvis's voice. While other kids played outside, Miguel stood in front of a cracked mirror, holding a spoon like a microphone, singing softly so the neighbors wouldn't complain. His parents noticed early that his voice was different. Not loud, not flashy, but deep, warm, and haunting in a way that didn't match his age. School wasn't easy for Miguel. He was shy, often teased for his old-fashioned music taste and his worn-out shoes. Some classmates laughed when he sang during school programs, calling him Elvis Jr. in a mocking tone. But there were moments, brief, magical moments, when the teasing stopped. When Miguel sang, teachers paused, students listened, and the room changed. Those moments became his fuel. When a local talent scout mentioned America's Got Talent during a community event, Miguel laughed it off. AGT felt like another planet. But his mother didn't laugh. She saw something in her son that the world hadn't seen yet. They saved money for months, selling extra food, skipping small comforts. His father sold his old fishing net to help pay for the journey. It wasn't just Miguel going to AGT, it was the hope of an entire family, an entire neighborhood. The trip to America was overwhelming. The airport lights, the language, the cold air, it all made Miguel feel smaller than ever. Backstage at AGT, surrounded by confident performers and flashy costumes, doubt crept in. His hands shook harder now. He thought about turning back. He thought about his father's tired eyes and his mother's quiet prayers. That's when he closed his eyes and remembered the radio by the window, the sea outside, and Elvis's voice reminding him that pain could be turned into power. When Miguel walked onto the AGT stage, the judges smiled politely. Simon Cowell leaned back, curious but cautious. "What are you going to sing?" Simon asked. Miguel swallowed. "An Elvis Presley song," he said softly. A few eyebrows raised. The audience murmured. Another Elvis? Another tribute? Expectations dropped quietly, invisibly. The music began. The first note changed everything. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was deep, controlled, and filled with something raw. A voice that carried years of struggle, sacrifice, and quiet resilience. The chatter stopped. The audience leaned forward. One judge's smile faded into shock. Simon sat up straight. Miguel's voice didn't try to imitate Elvis, it honored him. Every note felt lived in, as if Miguel had borrowed memories far older than himself. The room didn't just go silent, it held its breath. Some audience members wiped tears without realizing when they started. The camera caught Simon blinking slowly, his jaw tight, clearly moved. Halfway through the song, Miguel closed his eyes. He wasn't on the AGT stage anymore. He was back home, singing into a spoon, dreaming without permission. When the final note faded, silence lingered, pure, stunned silence. Then the theater exploded. The judges stood. The audience roared. Miguel froze, overwhelmed. Tears welled in his eyes as he bowed slightly, unsure what to do next. Simon spoke last, his voice unusually soft. He said that moments like this were the reason the show existed. That Miguel didn't just sing, he told a story. Backstage, Miguel collapsed into his mother's arms, both of them crying. That performance went viral within hours. Millions watched. Comments poured in from around the world. People didn't just hear a voice, they felt seen. A boy from a small Filipino town reminded the world that greatness doesn't need permission or privilege. Miguel didn't win AGT that season. But he won something bigger. Record labels called. Schools invited him to perform. Kids who were once afraid to dream saw themselves in him. He used his platform to talk about sacrifice, about family, about believing even when the world laughs first. Years later, Miguel still sings Elvis songs, but he also sings his own. Every time he steps on stage, he remembers that first moment of silence, the kind that changes lives. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that miracles still happen when courage meets opportunity, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all that sometimes, the quietest voices make the loudest impact. The moment his name was announced, something shifted in the air, like the world paused just long enough to listen. The crowd didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness a voice that carried oceans, storms, and silent prayers from a faraway island. A young Filipino boy stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, small in size, but carrying a story far bigger than himself. The lights felt too bright, the room too big, yet he stood there, breathing slowly, holding onto the microphone like it was the last thread connecting him to home. This was the moment AGT wasn't ready for, and neither were the hearts about to be changed. Before the music begins, take a second to support stories that inspire real emotion. If this voice, this journey, touches you even a little, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive. His name was Daniel Reyes. Back home in the Philippines, Daniel lived where the roads were narrow and dreams had to fight hard to survive. His house sat near the edge of the town, where the sound of waves mixed with the hum of old radios. His grandfather's radio was his treasure, scratched, faded, but magical. That radio introduced him to Elvis Presley. The first time Daniel heard Elvis sing, he didn't understand the words, but he felt the ache, the longing, the fire. It felt like someone across time and distance understood him. Daniel's childhood wasn't easy. His father worked overseas, sending money when he could. His mother cleaned houses, often coming home exhausted. Daniel learned early that love sometimes shows up as sacrifice. Singing became his escape. He sang while doing chores, while walking to school, while sitting alone at night. Music was the only place where he felt truly seen. At school, his voice made people stop, but not always in a good way. Some kids laughed, calling his voice too old for his face. Others told him Elvis was dead, that dreams like his didn't belong to kids from places like theirs. But every insult only pushed him deeper into music. When life felt heavy, Daniel sang lower, slower, stronger. The idea of America's Got Talent felt impossible. But impossible things often begin with quiet hope. A teacher recorded Daniel singing at a school event and shared it online. The video spread farther than anyone expected. Weeks later, an email arrived. An audition invitation. Daniel read it again and again, afraid it would disappear. Traveling to America felt like stepping into a dream he wasn't sure he deserved. The AGT backstage area buzzed with confidence and noise. Dancers stretched, singers warmed up, performers laughed loudly. Daniel sat alone, eyes closed, humming softly. Doubt crept in. He thought of his mother praying at dawn, his father watching from another country, his town waiting quietly. When he walked onto the stage, the judges smiled politely. Simon Cowell studied him carefully. "What will you sing today?" Simon asked. "An Elvis Presley song," Daniel replied. The reaction was subtle but clear, lowered expectations. Another Elvis tribute. Another risky choice. The music started. And then, the room went silent. Daniel's voice didn't rush. It arrived like a memory. Deep, smooth, and heavy with emotion far beyond his years. Every note felt honest. The audience leaned forward. No phones. No whispers. Just listening. Simon's expression changed. One judge covered her mouth. Another wiped a tear away before realizing it. Daniel sang like someone who had waited his whole life to be heard. His voice carried the pain of distance, the warmth of family, the strength of survival. He wasn't copying Elvis, he was channeling the soul of the song through his own story. When he reached the final note, he held it just long enough to break hearts. Silence followed. Thick. Powerful. Then the crowd exploded. The judges stood. The audience cheered. Daniel's hands shook as tears streamed down his face. Simon spoke, his voice unusually quiet. He said that moments like this don't come often, that this was more than a performance.